Welcome to the Royal Road School of Carmelite Prayer. At the present time, we are studying Love4Love, the life and works of St. Teresa of Jesus, as written by the Carmelite Edith Stein, and we are looking at chapter 11, Works for the Lord. So, one who loves feels compelled to do something for the beloved. Teresa, who, even as a child, showed herself to be boldly decisive and ready to act, burned with the desire to show the Lord her love and thankfulness by action. As a nun in a contemplative monastery, she seemed to be cut off from all outer activity, so she at least wanted to do as much as possible to make herself holy. With the permission of her confessor, Father Alvarez, who was her father's confessor, and her highest superior in the order, she took a vow always to do what would be most pleasing to God. To protect her from uncertainty and from qualms of conscience, the text was later changed to read that her confessor was to decide what would be perfect at any given time. But a soul so full of love could not be satisfied with caring for its own salvation and making the Lord happy by its own perfection. One day, she was transported into hell by a horrible vision. I immediately understood that God wanted me to show me the place that the devil had reserved for me and that I deserved for my sins. It lasted hardly a moment, but even if I live for many more years, I will never be able to forget it. She recognizes what goodness has preserved her from. This superscription for my life should read, "The mercy of God." But countless other people are constantly subject to the dangers that she, Teresa, had escaped. And she wondered to herself, how could I find one day of rest with such an outlook? How could I live in peace while so many souls were being lost? It was at the time when Germany was torn by a schism, France was tearing itself to pieces in wars of religion, and all Europe was confused by false doctrines. Broken-hearted, as though I could do something, or as if I myself were someone, I embraced the feet of the Lord. I shed bitter tears, and I asked him to remedy such evil. I would gladly have sacrificed 1,000 lives to save one of these misguided souls. But how could a poor woman like me serve the cause of her divine master? During such reflections, there occurred to her the thought of freeing herself from the mitigated rule of her monastery. Now Teresa is speaking to us. So that if she could rest entirely in God, like the saints, the hermits who had preceded her, since she could not, as she would have liked, extol God's mercy throughout the entire world to poverty, withdrawal, constant prayer, and the strictness of the primitive rule, already full of this thought, which was not simply fantasy, but a firm decision. Teresa conceived of how she would surround herself with a small band of noble souls who were ready to join her in doing what was most perfect. She considered how she might pray day and night to be a constant support to those destined to save souls. It seemed to her as though she were already in the situation which appeared to her as paradise, She saw herself already living in a little house clad in sackcloth, enclosed behind the walls, only occupied with prayer, and hurrying with her companions to serve the most beloved. Well, it was not to be too long before this lovely dream was to become reality. Amen. So that was the end of chapter 11. It wasn't very long. And we will then turn our attention to chapter 12, St. Joseph's of Avila, the first monastery of the Reformed. So in 11, she had her dream of what would become the Carmelite order, and it comes to fruition in chapter 12. Amen. I hope you're enjoying following along. God bless you.